Divorce and property division. What women need to know about the division of community property during their divorce. My name is Bobby Dale Barina, and I am the founder and chief legal strategist at the Barina Law Group. And I've been practicing family law in Central Texas for over 30 years. And in that time, I've participated in thousands of divorces. And along those lines, thousands of times I've been asked to participate in property division. So today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how property is divided during a divorce in Texas. What we look at, what is community property, what is separate property, and most importantly, how can you protect your assets in this process? Now, Texas is a community property state. And when I say that, what I'm really saying is we divide the property that is community property in a just and equitable manner. And it's kind of akin to fairness, but let's kind of look at the keys and the key factors the courts look at when determining what is a just and equitable division of the community property estate. The factors the court takes into account is really, first off, what is community property? Now, what is community property is that is everything that's accumulated during the course of the marriage. If you've been married for 5 years, everything that's accumulated in that 5 years is considered community property and subject to the fair and equitable division, unless it's not. And that means unless it is separate property. And separate property, we're talking about gifts or inheritance. Those things, even during the marriage, are considered separate property. Personal injury lawsuit awards for personal injury, not lost wages, personal injury also is separate property. And now, separate property, of course, is not during the marriage for most of the time, the accumulation of the property. So anything owned by either spouse before the marriage is considered separate property. And again, separate property isn't divided. So what we have to look at is what the separate property is, what the community property is, and then the court can consider that in making the division of the community property estate. Also, the judge likes to look at the length of the marriage. Now, obviously, the longer the marriage is, the more time there is to accumulate community property. And longer the marriage, then you have the different paths taken by each spouse. One may have worked the full time, one may have raised the children the full time. Careers and things can have some advantages economically than others. So the court wants to know exactly how long the marriage is. The next thing the court's going to look at is the age, health, and financial condition of the spouses. Financial condition, that's that separate property component. The age and the health comes into it when the court considers the age, the physical, and mental health of each party. If one party needs doctor appointments, needs treatment, will be unable to earn less earning capacity or less job skills, or their employability is in question because they haven't been in the workforce. The judge factors in awarding a little bit off center because then it still would be just and equitable. The next thing the judge is going to want to look at is the educational background and the employment history of the parties. And again, one party, one spouse is constantly employed, moving up, continuing to make more and more money. Their retirement benefits will increase and increase and increase. That's also brought into the division of the community property estate. And that's because one party, again, may be gifted and may be able to continue to grow because of advanced training or education that was paid by the community property. Then the fifth one, to be a little bit clearer, is the earning capacity and future financial prospects. Job market that's hot, somebody's going to be able to continue to go higher and higher, or there's just so many jobs opening right now because there's not enough supply to meet the demand. That's something the court considers as well, as the ability to be employed in the future. Job skills, work experience, again, all plays into the just and equitable division. And I keep going back to that because we always think it's 50-50, and it's not. Sometimes it has to pull off the 50-50 to be fair to one spouse. Now, we also look at the contributions to the marriage, the income earned during the marriage, the non financial, being the homemaker, the child rearer, the person that does all the things for the children. The court really values both types of contribution and considers them that one person did something that brought money into the home and one person spouse did something to make the home a better place for them and their children. Now, Texas is a no fault divorce state, but we also have fault based divorce, adultery, things like that. So the judge will also take into account the fault in the breakdown of the marriage. Now, when it's the fault base is adultery, cruelty, and you're saying I would have stayed married and had this economic benefit, except they committed adultery, they were cruel, I lost the benefit financially of the marriage. That's taken into dividing the community property estate in a just and equitable manner. The next thing is custody of the children. If one party is going to have custody of the children and they've primarily been the person that stays at home, and maybe one of the children has special needs, well, that is taken into consideration because you're saying this person may not work as much, but it's the benefit of both parties that the children continue to receive care. So they're going to consider that in the division of the property. The next key factor that courts generally look at is the tax consequences. The potential tax implication to property division are also taken into account to ensure a fair distribution. For instance, one party, well, they've been married for 20 years, one party takes the house, they live in it for another 5 years. Obviously, they had this house now 15 years, the capital gains and things like that could really be something you want to look at. The next thing is the debts and liabilities. The division of the marital debts is also an important factor to see if somebody gets a piece of property, what are the debts that go with it? They may have to have some further assets to balance it out. So the court considers the nature and the amount of the debts, which spouse is in a better position to pay them. So sometimes somebody gets a piece of property, but the other spouse still makes payments to make sure that's paid off. Now, property division in Texas, it sounds easy at the top, but it's a very complicated, math-driven proposal. So if you would like to have more information about your specific circumstances, your unique situation, please feel free to contact the Barina Law Group at 254-699-3755, and we can address the factors and the keys to a just and equitable division of the community of property estate as it applies to you and you alone. And we can go over these things and build a comprehensive plan for you to best protect your assets in a divorce. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with me and allowing me to discuss property division in Texas.